Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. My name is Gita Mary and today we are talking about secondhand shopping and specifically what happens when we donate clothing. So I've been thrifting my entire life. I cannot remember a time where I didn't go to thrift shops. I was extremely dependent upon them when I was growing up, in fact, both for clothing, for books, for toys. I've always had a really warm and endearing association with thrift shops. And now I talk about thrifting as a way of finding new clothing or home decor pieces or kitchen equipment or books or anything without creating demand for new products to be made. So there is a huge sustainability advantage to buying pre-loved, to using things that are already in the waste stream through charity shops, thrift shops, and often you also support a good cause when you buy things from these places. But did I just dedicate a whole video to praising thrift shops? No, I did not. I am here to disappoint. I am here to be the party pooper, the one who's gonna bum you out. Now, obviously, I hope that I'm communicating effectively all the benefits of thrift shopping, of buying secondhand, of buying pre-loved. However, there's something that we need to talk about as well. And that has nothing to do with the buying from thrift shops. That has something to do with the donating to thrift shops. Because donating clothing to charity shops has, for many consumers, become a way of simply disposing of the things they don't want anymore. It's working as a tool to make room for new clothing. According to a British study, we only wear about 44% of the clothing we own, while we're buying more clothing than ever. But donating clothes to charity is a way of making sure that our unwanted clothes gets a new home, right? Right? The supply chains in thrift shops and charity shops and the hierarchy that determines what clothing ends up getting sold where is a little bit more complex than simply donating things to a shop and then seeing it resold in said shop. Actually, only about 10 to 30% of the clothing we donate to a charity shop is sold in that shop. So what happens to the rest of the donations? When we donate clothing to charity shops, we send our clothing through a really long supply chain. If you donate something to a charity shop in Europe, the clothing will be graded and sorted. The best pieces will be sold in the UK, in Germany, Sweden, Denmark, France, etc. While the clothes of lesser quality will continue through the supply chain and be sold in shops in Poland or Greece, Latvia, Hungary or Romania. Commercial partners of charity shops decide what can be sold in a specific country and the rest passes on until it reaches its final destination in the global south. In Germany alone, about 1 million tons of used clothes are collected every year. And since the middle of the 90s, the volume of clothes collected every year has grown by 20% and keeps growing along with the ever-increasing speed of fast fashion. And many charity shops and thrift shops and commercial partners of which are often advertising that a lot of the clothing ends up in Ghana, Kenya, Mozambique, etc. And it's often advertised and communicated as a good deed, so that's what a lot of consumers think. However, the clothes that end up in the global south has been deemed unsellable many times over in many different countries and by many different partners. It's been sorted as unsellable in country after country. The vast majority of clothing with a little bit of value has already been picked out of the supply chain before reaching the global south. As such, the last steps of the supply chain, the parts happening in the global south, is nothing more than glorified trash disposal. And country after country has simply just passed it on because disposing of it is actually pretty expensive. The system that was built to sort and distribute these clothes were not built for the massive onslaught of fast fashion we're seeing today. So there's no proper infrastructure in place to handle these amounts of textile waste. This is true for every country today, even richer economies. That's why the majority of fashion collection and recycling programs are actually more often than not just scams. But it's especially true in the global south, where the vast majority of our textile waste ends up. Oh no, sorry, donations. 62 million tons of clothing is manufactured worldwide every single year, which adds up to about 80 to 150 billion pieces of clothes. The fast-paced trends of the fashion industry, along with the poor quality with which many clothes are made today, has resulted in consumers looking to donations as another form of a way. And we very well know that simply throwing something in the bin doesn't mean that it goes away. Just like throwing something in a donations bin also doesn't mean that it's going away. Donating completely broken down, worn out and unwearable pieces of clothing is technically not the same as throwing it into the bin yourself. Even though the result is basically the same, we just feel a tad bit better about it. The vast amounts of cheaply produced clothing from richer economies in Europe are absolutely flooding countless communities in Africa. And while your girl is all for refuse, reduce, reuse, rewear, recycle, rot, this doesn't come without consequences. Several of the communities that managed these discarded clothes were built on trading donations, and they used to earn money from reselling the good quality clothes, even discarded or outdated designer items. However, the vast majority of good quality clothing has been removed from the bundle many charity shop collection centers ago, leaving only leftovers with no reselling value, meaning that a lot of people struggle with debt in this industry today. Local textile manufacturing sectors has also collapsed along with long lines of textile craftsmanship. Between 1975 and 2000, the textile trade in Ghana fell by 75%. Note that this is the similar time period which we talked about in the video about the impact of polyester and fast fashion, where fast fashion started going on the rise. As such, I don't think it's unfair to say that the collapse of the textile trade in Ghana and the rise of fast fashion are events that are completely interlinked. The fast fashion industry and the relationship that many Western consumers have with clothing is also vastly different from the traditions of the African textile trade. As a result, Oliver Franklin Wallace describes in his book Wasteland that many people in the global south thought that the donated clothes all came from dead people, because that would be the only logical reason for why people would discard of them. As such, the donated clothes from Europe is often referred to as dead white man's clothes or dead European clothes in local communities. According to research from the Orr Foundation, about 40% of the textiles that arrive in Kantamanto, a textile market in Ghana that's considered a hotspot for fashion trading, becomes waste immediately. 40%. 40% of all the donations that end up there become waste immediately. And collecting and properly disposing of these massive amounts of textile waste shipped to Ghana, masked as wearable clothes, costs money, which the local businesses do not have. So the textile waste is often just left to accumulate in the streets and nearby environment. The clothes also suck up water and dirt in the landfill, creating massive rock-hard blocks of a concrete-like character, which makes crushing, sorting and moving the waste a lot more difficult. Actually, about 73% of clothes end up being burned or buried in landfill, while only 12% is recycled. And every single second, a truckload's worth of textile waste gets dumped in a landfill. Despite the fact that 98% of clothing can actually, theoretically, technically, be recycled. It has the potential to be recycled, it just isn't. There isn't the proper infrastructure, the proper technology, or the proper funding. When the fast fashion industry can create cotton and polyester blend shirts and sell them for $3 with a profit, why would they then invest in expensive recycling facilities? They wouldn't. It's just a bad business model. Although it would be tremendously better for the planet, which is why we need legislation and actual textile-driven policies that make sure that this does not happen, because the businesses are clearly not fixing it. I also have a whole video about the H&M recycling clothing scheme and how it's just all a scam. If you want to check that out, I'll link it down below. Are we surprised? No. Are we furious? Yes. But does this mean that shopping in secondhand shops, charity shops, or thrift shops isn't sustainable or ethical anymore? No, you can absolutely still do that, and I encourage it. Buying pre-loved and using what is already in the waste stream is a really good idea, because whenever we buy new things, we create demand. Demand for more stuff to be created. We vote, yes, please, more of this, with our money. So new things, and especially in fashion, should be bought with intention and conscious effort. But we also need to talk about how we dispose of clothing. Rather than chucking all our unwanted clothing into a bag or a bin and driving it down to the local charity shop, mobilize your own community. Arrange clothing swaps or events or parties and just nice afternoons where people can buy or get or use things from your closet, and you can get things from other people's closets, and simply thrifting each other's closets. I've done this with my friends several times actually, and it feels so nice because it feels like you're getting new clothing while you're not paying for anything and you're not creating demand for more. You're just borrowing things from each other in an endless loop. One of the main things that needs to happen here is that we need to change our mentality regarding our clothing, because fashion is still perceived as a disposable product. And I know we've talked about this so many times, you guys must be sick of me saying this thing, but we need to talk about it. It's just so incredibly important. The more we talk about it, the more we normalize this mentality shift. Today, and in a lot of communities and for a lot of consumers living in excess, it's completely socially acceptable to discard of unwanted clothing as soon as it doesn't fit your style or vibe. But buying fashion that's leaning up against short-lived trends will always make you feel like you're falling behind on what's new and in. And it can also distance yourself from your wardrobe, because none of what's in your wardrobe all of a sudden feels current or authentic to who you are, because it's not reflective of your style. It's reflective of your Instagram feed. As a conclusion, we need to start thinking about clothing as something that's valuable. And that is extremely difficult to do in a society where Shein creates $4 dresses. And just going back to thrift shops for a while, one of the best things that consumers can do if you want to donate clothing, because donating clothing is fine. We just have to donate in moderate amounts, because we have to purchase and consume in more moderate amounts. And only donate, and I mean this with all sincerity of my heart, always exclusively donate clothing that's clean, that's intact, and that's wearable. Everything else needs to be either recycled or repurposed in some way or another, but it does not belong in a donations bin. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you liked it. Leave your comments and thoughts down below. I would love to hear how you guys recycle or repurpose clothing at home. One of my favorite things to do is stuffing old clothing into pillow covers and using them to sort of refluff my pillows. But there are many ways where we can use clothing that doesn't involve chucking it into the bin. And I would love to hear you guys' ideas on how to do this. Thank you so much for watching. Have an amazing day. I will see you guys next time. Take really good care of yourselves. Until then, bye. Thank you so much for watching this video, and also a special thank you to my Patreon supporters. You guys help me create green, zero-waste content, and I love you guys. You can find the links to my social media accounts down below and the link to my Patreon on this screen. Bye!